Well, Labor Day weekend is usually a final send-off for summer. Lots of parties and social gatherings are planned and possibly an adult beverage or two. And if that happens to be your thing, you might have noticed that in your party planning, some of your favorite beers are not on the shelves anymore. Here's who took them all. Okay, no. News Center Maine's Carly Dion does join us to explain why this is happening. Hey, Carly.
Hey, Lee, it wasn't me, I promise. Craft breweries have become a booming industry here in the Pine Tree State with more than 160 licensed brewers throughout Maine. But some of them are hurting right now due to a nationwide shortage of carbon dioxide. I spoke with the executive director of the Maine Brewers Guild about what's causing it.
It's kind of like if you made a huge batch of cookie dough and then someone said, I can't get you, cookie sheets until next week.
Cookie dough without a cookie sheet, like a batch of beer without carbon dioxide. Maine Brewers Guild Executive Director Sullivan says a shortage of CO2, a growing problem for breweries across the country and some here in Maine.
Unless you like flat beer, then CO2 is a key part of the brewing process.
Sullivan says carbon dioxide is used in many steps of the brewing process, carbonating the brews, pushing it around the brewery, packing it into cans, and even used for washing out kegs.
There's kind of a perfect storm of factors that have decreased the supply of CO2.
Factors like some of the plants producing CO2 are shutting down and transportation strains affecting the supply chain. Sullivan says some suppliers are either unable to fill orders or only partially filling them.
Man, if we ran out of CO2, it would have to be a shutdown probably.
Mason's Brewing Company lead brewer Matt York says it hasn't been hit as hard by the shortage, but he says CO2 deliveries have been more spaced out recently.
It definitely has gotten a little lower than we normally would, which is, it definitely is nerve-wracking at times.
But it's always a relief when the deliveries show up. A delivery driver for New CO2 tells me he's seeing the effects of the shortage, only making about half of his normal deliveries lately. So, could we start seeing this affect the price we pay at restaurants and stores?
I've not seen or heard brewers doing that at this point. I think they're eating the cost as it stands.
But Sullivan says he expects the shortage to get worse, as another major CO2 source is expected to run dry this fall.
Hopefully, if it doesn't get too much worse, we should be able to be in a pretty good position to get through it.
Sullivan with the Brewers Guild says they've suggested to some breweries being hit the hardest to use nitrogen in place of CO2 in some instances. But one thing it can't be used in place of is the carbonation process because it changes the taste of the beer. The smaller nitrogen bubbles actually create a smoother, thicker brew. For example, nitrogen is specifically used to make Guinness. And Lee, I'm guessing you probably don't want your shipyard summer ale tasting like a stout, right?
Don't mess with my shipyard summer. I'm not a big beer snob, but the light beer I'm good with. So if it tastes like that other stuff, it's like liquid mud for me. So no, don't mess with it. Thank you, Carly. Appreciate it.